Alright guys, so on the channel we've checked out several different products from the company Final Audio, and I've kind of learned that I'm always walking away very impressed. But they do have like a specific type of tuning that kind of separates them from other headphones or earbuds or anything that I've tested. And when I saw that they had the DX3000CL, which is the headphone that we're going to check out today, it immediately caught my attention for a number of reasons. But the first thing that caught my attention were the ear pads, and it's because these remind me of what Sony used to have many years ago, which was like the XB500s. It's super thick ear pads. It was part of their like extra bass lineup, and so I kind of thought, what if Final Audio had a pair of headphones that's kind of more geared towards bass? So it just, again, immediately caught my attention and I wanted to check these out. Now, it's part of their DX lineup. There's 3 different headphones in this lineup, but the 3000CL is the entry model. We'll talk about kind of the comparisons, or at least the price differences, a little bit later in the video. So let's go ahead and jump into what the DX3000CLs have to offer. So the first thing that I noticed with them being the design that they are, having the thick ear pads and them looking a little bit wide, I kind of expected them to be heavy, but surprisingly, they're very light. The ear pads are extremely soft. The actual material of the headphones is actually made from a glass fiber reinforced resin. And I think that's, again, why these are kind of light. It is a metal frame that goes through like the headband and holds the ear cups. It is a pleather top. It does have plenty of padding, especially considering these are as light as they are. And like I said, the ear pads to me are just, they're so soft. They're so comfortable. There's not a huge tight clamping force on here. It's just enough to kind of keep them on your head. You can see the ear cups actually slide up and down the metal frame themselves. That's how you adjust these. Now, they don't swivel to kind of lay flat. They do swivel and adjust where it can kind of just adjust just enough around your head. But this is not one of those you can kind of wear around your neck and then kind of swivel the ear cups out or swivel them in. And you can see on the bottom, they have 2 slots for connections, and that's because they have 3.5mm connections, and the cable that they've included gives you dual 3.5mm, so it has to be plugged into both sides of the headphones. And then the part that plugs into whatever device you have is a 4.4mm balance plug-in. Now, they do include a 1/4-inch plug-in, but that also means that there's not a standard 3.5mm plug-in. So if you're wanting to just plug them straight into a laptop or a phone or something that would have a normal headphone jack, these won't be able to do that. You'll need an adapter to get it to do that. So you can kind of tell that maybe these are geared towards being used for an amp, which is another surprising thing, because the specifications on these, if you look at them, it has an impedance level of only 37 ohms with a sensitivity level of up to 96 decibels. So technically, it's actually easy to drive. It's not one of those that I would say you would need an amp to at least get decent volume out of, but you're definitely going to want to use an amp if you're going to want to push out the lowest, the mids, and the highs. It's just what these type of headphones are basically used for. You could use it as a walk-around headphone because it is closed back. It's not open, so it's not one of those that's going to be leaking all kind of sound. It just looks like one of those you would use at home, plugged into a desktop or plugged into like a home stereo system. And then outside of the cable we talked about, there's nothing in the box. There's no case for these. The box is actually very simple looking. There's no picture of the headphones. It's very bland on the outside. It's just a white box with some simple print. So they're going for just a very clean approach here. But again, without including a case, I think, again, they're trying to tell you these aren't really meant to be used on the go. So now let's go ahead and jump into the sound. Before we do that, we can go ahead and talk about the drivers on these. They are using 40mm paper carbon composite dynamic drivers. So it is just a single driver in here. They are 40mm, so it's not like overly large. And the sound that's coming out of these, and this is what already just separated themselves from other Final Audio products, it's definitely warm, it's definitely bass heavy, and it's not going for like that overly technical approach. It is a fun headphone to listen to, but at the same time, they kind of keep everything sounding pretty natural. It's not like overly bright. It's definitely not overly harsh. The treble has this warmness to it. Same thing with the mids. You could tell they bumped them just enough forward that vocalists always stood out. But having the warm approach just kind of made everything sound like you were listening to them in a live environment. It is a wider sounding headphone for a closed back headphone. It doesn't have that like concert hall, like that kind of wideness, but it definitely is not keeping you isolated or making you feel like you're just in a small, intimate environment either. There's plenty of space in here, a lot of separation in the instruments. So from a technical aspect, you really can kind of tell where different instruments are coming from. It has really good depth in the sound. And again, it wasn't something I was expecting from a closed back headphone. But again, what I wasn't expecting was the bass that I got coming out of a final audio product. At least out of the ones that I've tested before, I've always noticed they always seem to be a little bit more mid-focused. The timbre on these are incredible. It definitely has really good focus on vocals. Again, male and female vocalists, acoustic instruments. They all have just this, it's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what it is, but there is a nice forward approach here. This is going to be for audiophiles that actually like bass. I kind of fall into that category. I don't necessarily consider myself an audiophile. I'm just an audio enthusiast. I like all kind of headphones, all different kind of sound signatures. So it's kind of refreshing to get a pair of headphones like this that's more higher end, or at least more mid-range, and be able to get focus on the low end. To be able to have that kind of punch, be fun to listen to, especially if you listen to different genres, going from like pop and hip hop all the way to metal. The double bass of the drums have this thick approach to it, but it's still fast. It is still trying to be fairly accurate and not be sloppy. There's no, there's no bloatedness here as far as it being congested or muddy or anything like that. But there is bloatedness in a sense that you're meant to kind of feel the impact a little bit more than a pair that's meant to be neutral. So to kind of wrap this video up, if you are, again, an audiophile or somebody that's looking to get into audiophile gear, but you really like bass and you really like to have a more fun approach to your sound, I was, again, kind of surprised that that's what this had to offer. And especially considering this is more the entry level into their DX lineup. But now this is where we need to kind of talk about the price. It does come in at $599. The step up from this, which is the DX4000 CL, comes in at $1,000. And I believe the 6000 CL model comes in at $2,000. So for me, if you look at all three of these, and you kind of look at the history of final audio products, this is what I consider a good deal on a more higher end pair of headphones. And again, something that's more bass focused, because I did read where the 4000 model is focused a little bit more on being neutral, which would not be something that I would want to spend $1,000 on, but this one kind of fits me a little bit better. So I definitely recommend these, especially if you kind of fall into the same category that I do. But guys, that wraps up my video on the final DX3000 CLs. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.